The matchbox is still glued to the ceiling when the first round punches through the hillside 20 meters to your left, showering the Sherman's flank with rock and dirt. You don't see the Panzer that fired it. You don't see anything except dust, the inside of your own turret, and a small cardboard rectangle trembling against riveted steel above your head. That rectangle, marked by your own crew 3 days ago, is the only reason you know your gun is pointing 11 degrees off where you think it is. And in the next 40 seconds, that knowledge will decide whether 5 American tanks burn in this ravine, or whether you somehow walk out of the Apennines alive. This is Italy, late September 1944. The Gothic line is cracking but not broken. Your unit, Baker Company, 1st Armored Regiment, 1st Armored Division, has been tasked with pushing up a narrow supply road that winds through limestone cliffs and scrub pine, a route the maps call Strada Provinciale 47, but which everyone just calls the Throat. It's a perfect kill zone. The road twists every 30 meters, rises and falls without warning, and offers no room to maneuver. If you meet armor coming the other way, someone dies, usually the side that hesitates. You've been climbing since dawn, and the dust from the lead tank has turned the world inside your periscope into a gray fog. Your gunner can't see. Your driver can't see. You can barely see. But you can see the matchbox. Your name is Lieutenant Raymond Cass, and before the war you sold insurance in Akron, Ohio. You are 26 years old. You have a wife named Eileen who writes you letters you don't always answer, and you have a problem that's been eating at you for weeks. The problem is this. When you're moving, especially on winding roads, you lose track of where your gun is pointing. The turret traverses left, the hull turns right, dust clouds the periscope, and suddenly you have no idea if you're aimed at a farmhouse or a friendly half-track. In open country it doesn't matter much. But here, in the mountains, where the enemy can be above you, below you, around the next hairpin turn, it matters a great deal. You've seen 2 Shermans in the last week fire on their own infantry because the commander lost orientation in the chaos. You've sworn it won't happen to you. So 3 nights ago, in a farmyard outside Firenzuola, you took a matchbox, emptied it, and glued it flat to the turret ceiling, aligned precisely with the bore of the 75. Your loader, a kid from Tennessee named Pruitt, laughed out loud. Your gunner, Sergeant Kowalski, a Polish machinist from Detroit, called it the dumbest thing I ever seen an officer do. Your driver, Corporal Havens, didn't say anything, but you saw him smirk. Even your bow gunner, Private Delgado, asked if you were feeling all right. You told them it was a reference point, a fixed visual cue. When everything else is shaking and the periscope is blind, you can glance up, see the matchbox, and know exactly where the gun is relative to the hull. They didn't buy it. You didn't care. You glued it anyway. The idea came to you after a night action 2 weeks earlier, near Futa Pass. Your platoon had been ordered to support an infantry advance through a village the Germans had abandoned, or so intelligence said. Intelligence was wrong. The Germans were still there, dug into cellars and upper floors, and when your column rolled in at dusk, the streets erupted with Panzerfaust fire and machine gun tracers. You were moving fast, turret traversing left and right, trying to suppress windows and doorways, and somewhere in the chaos you lost track of your orientation. The hull was angled southwest down a narrow street. The turret was pointed east, or maybe northeast. You weren't sure. The periscope showed you smoke and the silhouette of a building. You gave the order to fire. Kowalski fired. The building exploded. And then, over the radio, you heard screaming. American screaming. You just put a 75mm high explosive round into the second floor of a house, where a squad from the 91st Infantry Division had taken cover. 3 men died. 2 more lost limbs. The after-action report called it friendly fire incident due to limited visibility and close quarters confusion. No charges were filed. No one blamed you officially, but you blamed yourself. And you swore it wouldn't happen again. So you glued a matchbox to the ceiling. It's a small thing. Stupid even. But it works. When the turret rotates, the matchbox rotates with it, and your brain, trained over 3 nights of staring at that little cardboard rectangle, can instantly calculate the relationship between the gun and the hull. It's not perfect. It doesn't account for elevation or range or wind, but it tells you where you're pointing. And in the mountains, where every turn is blind and every shadow might hide a Panzerfaust team or a lost American patrol, that knowledge is the difference between killing the enemy and killing your own. Now, as the first Panzer round detonates on the hillside and the radio crackles with panicked voices from the lead tank, you glance up at that matchbox and feel a cold, clarifying focus settle over you. The enemy is here, multiple contacts, and you have no idea where. The voice on the radio is Lieutenant Harmon, commanding the lead Sherman, call sign Baker 1. His voice is tight, clipped. Contact front, I see. Jesus, I see 2, no, 3. The transmission cuts into static. You hear the heavy thump of a 75 firing, then another impact, closer this time, and the entire column grinds to a halt. You're fourth in line. You can't see Baker 1. You can't see anything but the rear deck of Baker 3, 30 meters ahead, half hidden in dust. The road here is barely wide enough for one tank. Cliffs rise on your right. A steep drop falls away on your left. If the lead tank is hit, the whole column is trapped. Kowalski, traverse right, slow, you say. Your voice is calm. You don't feel calm. The turret whines, begins to turn. You watch the matchbox. It rotates with the turret, of course, but your brain, trained now over 3 nights of staring at it, tracks the relationship between the box and the hull. The gun is swinging toward the cliff face. 60 degrees, 70. You stop him at 80. Hold there. You peer through the periscope. Nothing but rock and shadow. Another impact, this one behind you. Someone screams on the radio. You don't recognize the voice. The air inside the tank smells like sweat and oil and the faint acidic tang of fear. Pruitt is breathing hard beside you, his hands gripping the next round, knuckles white. Delgado, down in the bow, is muttering something in Spanish. You don't ask what. You don't want to know. Baker 4, this is Baker 1. We are engaged. Multiple enemy armor, high ground left and right. I count. Harmon's voice dissolves into a roar of static and then silence. You switch frequencies, trying to raise him. Nothing. You switch back to the company net. The voice you hear now is Captain Del Vecchio, the company commander, somewhere farther back in the column. All Baker elements, we have enemy armor in the heights, attempting to box us in. Do not advance, do not reverse, return fire and hold position. It's a reasonable order. It's also useless. You can't see the enemy. You can't move. And if you sit here, you're a stationary target in a shooting gallery. Pruitt, crouched beside you in the turret, is breathing hard. He's 19. This is his 4th week in combat. Lieutenant, what do we do? You don't answer immediately. You're thinking, the Panzers, and you're sure now they're Panzers, probably Mark IVs. Maybe a Panther if you're unlucky. Have the high ground and the initiative. They can see the column. They're picking positions, taking shots, adjusting. You can't see them. But they're not firing continuously. They're being careful. That means they're not sure of their own positions either, or they're worried about return fire, or they're trying to conserve ammunition. It means they're human. It means they can make mistakes. You key the intercom. Havens, when I say go, I want you to back us up 10 meters, fast, then hard left into that cut we passed. There was a narrow gap in the cliff wall, barely visible, maybe 50 meters back. You noticed it only because you've been scanning every inch of this road for the last hour, looking for cover, for options, for anything. Haven's voice comes back, skeptical. Left, sir? That's just a ditch. We'll get stuck. We'll get killed if we stay here. Do it. You glance up at the matchbox. The gun is still traversed right. You need it forward. Kowalski, bring the gun to 12 o'clock. Fast. The turret whines again. The matchbox swings. You watch it like a compass needle. When it aligns with the forward axis of the hull, you say, stop. Load HE. Pruitt slams a high explosive round into the breech. The gun is ready. You are not. Another impact very close now, and you feel the concussion through the hull. Dust sifts down from the ceiling. The matchbox shivers. You take a breath. Havens, go. The Sherman lurches backward. The engine roars. You're thrown against the turret wall. Through the periscope you see the world sliding past in reverse, a blur of rock and dust. 5 seconds. 10. Now, hard left. The tank slews, tracks screaming, and you feel the hull tilt as Havens forces the Sherman into the cut. There's a grinding sound, metal on stone, and for a moment you think you're stuck, but then the tank settles and you're in shadow, wedged between 2 rock faces, invisible from the road. You exhale. Pruitt is staring at you. Now what? Now you think. The Panzers are spread out, high ground, multiple angles. They're trying to enfilade the column, hit the Shermans from the side where the armor is weakest. Standard tactics. The problem is, they can't all see each other. The terrain is too broken. That means they're coordinating by radio or by prearranged plan. And if you disrupt that plan, if you appear where they don't expect you, you can create confusion. Maybe enough confusion to survive. You key the company net. Baker 6, this is Baker 4. I'm off the road in cover. I have a possible flanking route. Request permission to maneuver. There's a pause. Then Del Vecchio's voice, tight and angry. Baker 4, negative, hold position. We are attempting to suppress. Another explosion cuts him off. When he comes back, his voice is different. Quieter. Baker 4, do what you can. Good luck. You switch to intercom. Havens, there's a goat trail or something behind us. Angles up the slope. Take it. Slow and quiet as you can. Sir, we don't know where it goes. It goes up. That's where the Panzers are. Move. The Sherman grinds forward, engine throttled down, and you feel the nose lift as Havens finds the trail. It's not a trail, really. It's an eroded streambed, rocks and roots, barely wide enough for the tracks. The tank climbs. You're blind now. The periscope shows you nothing but the rock face inches away. You're navigating by feel, by the tilt of the hull, by the sound of the engine laboring, and by the matchbox. Because as the hull pitches and yaws as Havens fights the terrain, the turret stays level and the matchbox tells you, constantly, where the gun is pointing relative to the direction of travel. It's a tiny thing. A stupid thing. But it's the only reference you have. The climb is brutal. The Sherman wasn't designed for this. It's a 30-ton machine built for roads and open fields, not goat paths and vertical scrambles. You hear the tracks slipping on loose stone, the engine screaming in low gear, the suspension groaning under the strain. Twice the tank lurches sideways and you think you're going to roll, but Havens corrects, keeps the nose pointed uphill, keeps moving. You can hear him cursing over the intercom, a steady stream of profanity that would be funny in any other context. Kowalski is silent, hands on the traverse controls, waiting. Pruitt is praying. You can hear the words, soft and fast, something about the valley of the shadow of death. You don't tell him to stop. You're thinking the same thing. You climb for 3 minutes. It feels like an hour. Then the trail levels out and you break into open ground, a small plateau covered in scrub and shattered stone. And there, 200 meters to your left, hull down behind a low ridge, is a Panzer Mark IV, its long gun trained down toward the road. The crew hasn't seen you. They're focused on the column below. You have maybe 5 seconds before someone in that tank glances your way. Kowalski, target left, 2 o'clock, Panzer hull down. The turret begins to traverse. You watch the matchbox. It swings left, 30 degrees, 40. The Panzer is still motionless, 50 degrees. On target. Kowalski's voice is steady now, professional. Identified. Fire! The 75 roars. The breech slams back. The interior of the Sherman fills with smoke and the smell of cordite. Through the periscope you see the round hit low, sparking off the Panzer's front glacis. No penetration, but the enemy tank lurches, its turret begins to turn toward you. Load AP, fast! Pruitt is already moving, ramming an armor-piercing round home. Up! The Panzer's gun is swinging. You can see the muzzle, dark and huge. Fire! Kowalski fires again. This time the round punches through the Panzer's turret ring. There's a flash, a gout of smoke, and the enemy tank shudders and goes still. No explosion, no fire, just silence. You don't know if the crew is dead or bailed out. You don't have time to care. Havens, forward, angle right, get us behind that ridge. The Sherman moves. You're exposed now, visible from multiple directions, and you know the other Panzers have heard the firing. You reach the ridge, tuck the Sherman into a shallow depression. You're breathing hard. Pruitt is pale. Kowalski says, "Good shooting, sir." You don't feel like it was good. You feel like you're still alive by accident. The radio crackles. Del Vecchio's voice. "Baker 4, we saw that hit. Good kill. But we're still taking fire from at least 3 more contacts. High ground north and east. Can you locate?" You scan through the periscope. The plateau extends north, rising gradually, dotted with boulders and stunted trees. You see nothing. Then, movement. A flicker of shadow. You traverse the turret, slow, and the matchbox swings with it. You're learning to read it without thinking now, the way you read a clock. The gun is pointing northeast. 60 degrees off the hull. You stop, stare. There. Another Panzer, this one moving, crawling along a ridgeline 400 meters away, trying to reposition. It hasn't seen you. Not yet. Target, 11 o'clock, moving left to right, range 400. Kowalski adjusts. I don't see it. Trust me. Traverse left, 10 degrees. The matchbox swings. You're guiding him by the box now, by the angle, by instinct. Stop. Elevation up. Fire when ready. Kowalski hesitates. Then, identified. Firing. The gun roars. You don't see the impact. Too much dust. But the Panzer stops moving. Its turret doesn't turn. You think you hit it? You're not sure. Load he, we're moving. You spend the next 5 minutes repositioning, using the terrain, trying to get a better angle on the remaining Panzers. The plateau is a maze of ridges and depressions, and you're navigating blind, relying on Havens to pick a path and on the matchbox to keep you oriented. Twice you hear the crack of a high-velocity gun and the impact of a round somewhere behind you. The Germans know you're up here now. They're looking for you. You key the radio. Baker 6, I'm on the plateau. I've engaged 2 contacts trying to locate the others. Del Vecchio's voice comes back, strained. Baker 4, be advised, Baker 1 is immobilized, track damage. We're trying to get a recovery vehicle forward, but we're still under fire. Whatever you're doing up there, keep doing it. You move forward, slow. The Sherman crawling over broken ground. The matchbox trembles on the ceiling. You glance at it constantly now, checking, rechecking, making sure you know where the gun is pointing. It's become a reflex, like checking your mirrors when you drive. You crest a low rise and suddenly you see them. 2 Panzers, maybe 300 meters away, positioned on either side of a narrow draw, their guns trained down toward the road. They're in a perfect crossfire position. If they see you, you're dead. But they're not looking your way. Not yet. Kowalski, target's front, 2 Panzers, 300 meters, left one first. The turret traverses. You watch the matchbox, it swings left, 20 degrees, 30. Stop, fire when ready. Kowalski doesn't hesitate this time. The gun roars. The round hits the left Panzer in the side, just below the turret. There's a flash, and then the tank erupts in flames. Ammunition cooking off, you think. The crew bails out, tiny figures running, and you feel a sick twist in your gut. They're men, just men, doing their job, same as you. But you don't have time for guilt. The second Panzer is turning, its gun swinging toward you. Traverse right fast. The matchbox swings. 40 degrees, 50. Fire! Kowalski fires. The round hits high, glances off the Panzer's turret. No penetration. The enemy gun is almost on you. Load AP now. Pruitt is moving, but you know it's too late. The Panzer fires. You hear the crack, see the flash, and then the world explodes. The round hits your front glacis, low and left. The impact is like being inside a bell when it's struck. The noise is beyond sound, beyond pain. A physical force that slams through your body and leaves your ears ringing and your vision blurred. The Sherman rocks back on its suspension. Smoke fills the turret. You can't see, you can't hear. You think you're dead. Then Haven's voice, distant and tinny, cuts through the ringing. We're hit, front armor, no penetration, we're okay, we're okay. You blink. The smoke is clearing. The matchbox is still on the ceiling. You're still alive. Kowalski, target still there? Yes, sir. His voice is shaking. Fire. The gun roars again. This time the round punches through the Panzer's side armor. The tank shudders, goes still. No fire, no explosion, just silence. You sit there breathing hard, staring at the matchbox. One corner has come loose, curling up slightly. There's a smudge of oil on the cardboard. It looks ridiculous. It looks like the most important thing in the world. The radio crackles. Del Vecchio's voice. Baker 4, we're clear. Enemy is withdrawing. Good work. Return to the column. You key the intercom. Havens, take us back down. The Sherman turns, begins the slow descent back to the road. You glance up at the matchbox one more time. It's still there. Still trembling. Still pointing the way. When you reach the road, the column is moving again. Baker 1 is being towed, its left track blown off by a Panzer round. You pass it, see Harmon standing on the rear deck, his face black with smoke. He gives you a nod. You nod back. No words. What would you say? That night in a farmyard 10 kilometers north, Captain Del Vecchio walks over to your tank. You're sitting on the engine deck, smoking a cigarette you bummed from Pruitt. Del Vecchio looks at you for a long moment. Then he says, I heard about your matchbox. You don't know what to say. He climbs up onto the deck, peers into the open hatch, sees the cardboard rectangle glued to the ceiling. He laughs. It's not a mocking laugh. It's something else. Exhaustion maybe, relief. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, he says. Then he looks at you. Do it to every tank in the company. You blink. Sir? You heard me. Every tank. I don't care if they use matchboxes or bits of wood or paint a damn arrow on the ceiling. I want every commander to know where his gun is pointing at all times. We've lost too many men to friendly fire and confusion. If a stupid matchbox fixes that, then we're using stupid matchboxes. He pauses. You did good today, Cass. Real good. But don't let it go to your head. Tomorrow we do it all over again. Within a week, half the Shermans in the battalion have matchboxes or bits of wood or painted lines glued to their turret ceilings. Some crews use compasses, some use nothing at all, preferring to trust their instincts. But enough use it that it becomes a thing, a small piece of folklore passed from crew to crew. The tankers call it Cass's compass, though you never asked for the name and you don't particularly want it. You just wanted to know where your gun was pointing. You wanted one small piece of certainty in a world that offered none. The war moves on. October becomes November. The rains come, turning the roads into rivers of mud. The Gothic line finally breaks, and the advance continues north, slow and grinding. You fight through villages with names you can't pronounce, across rivers swollen with autumn rain, through forests where the trees are shattered stumps and the ground is cratered with shellfire. The matchbox stays on the ceiling. You glue it down again when the first one falls off. Then again. By December, you've gone through 4 matchboxes. Pruitt starts carrying extras in his pocket, just in case. You lose Delgado in January near Bologna. A mine. The Sherman hits it at speed, and the explosion tears through the bow, killing him instantly. You don't see the body. You don't want to. Havens is in the driver's seat when it happens, and the blast throws him against the controls, breaking his collarbone and 3 ribs. He's evacuated. You get a new bow gunner, a kid from Brooklyn named Ramos, and a new driver, a quiet farm boy from Nebraska named Erickson. They're competent. They're not Delgado and Havens. You don't talk about it. No one does. In February near the Po River, you're ordered to support an infantry assault on a fortified farmhouse. The Germans have dug in, machine guns and mortars, and the infantry is pinned down in a drainage ditch 200 meters from the objective. You roll forward, turret traversing, looking for targets. The periscope is fogged with condensation. You can barely see, but you can see the matchbox. You guide Kowalski by the box, calling out angles, and he fires blind, trusting you. The farmhouse collapses under the barrage. The infantry advances. No one dies. Afterward, the company commander, a captain named Brennan who replaced Del Vecchio when Del Vecchio took shrapnel in the leg and was sent home, asks you how you did it. You tell him about the matchbox. He stares at you. Then he laughs. I heard about that. I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke, sir. No, he says. I guess it's not. In March, Havens writes you a letter. He's in a hospital in Naples recovering. He says his shoulder is healing but slowly. He says he misses the crew. He says he heard about Delgado and he's sorry. He says he's glad you're still alive. He says he's not coming back. The doctors say he's done. He's going home. You read the letter twice, fold it carefully and put it in your pocket. You don't write back, you don't know what to say. In April, the Germans begin to collapse. The Po Valley offensive breaks their lines and suddenly you're advancing faster than you have in months. Towns fall in days. Resistance crumbles. You cross the Po on a pontoon bridge, the Sherman rocking on the floating sections, and you think about how far you've come. From the Gothic line to here. From September to April. 7 months. It feels like 7 years. On May 2nd, 1945, the Germans in Italy surrender. You're in a town called Villafranca, sitting on the engine deck of your Sherman, when you hear the news. Pruitt is beside you. Kowalski is inside the turret, cleaning the gun. Ramos and Erickson are playing cards on the ground. No one says anything for a long time. Then Pruitt says, "Is it over?" You look at him. He's not 19 anymore. He's something else, something older. "Yeah," you say. "It's over." You go home in June. The voyage across the Atlantic is long and boring, and you spend most of it on deck, staring at the water, thinking about nothing. When you arrive in New York, there are crowds and bands and people cheering, but you don't feel like cheering. You feel tired. You take a train to Akron. Eileen meets you at the station. She's thinner than you remember, and there are lines around her eyes that weren't there before. She hugs you. You hug her back. She asks if you're okay. You say yes. You're lying. She knows you're lying. She doesn't push. You marry her again, in a church this time, because the first wedding feels like it happened to someone else. You go back to selling insurance. You're good at it. You make a decent living. You buy a house. You have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. You coach Little League. You go to church on Sundays. You live a normal life. But at night sometimes you dream about the matchbox. You dream about the way it looked, glued to the steel, vibrating with every shot. You dream about the Panzers and the dust and the sound of the 75 firing. You wake up sweating and Eileen holds you and you don't talk about it. You never talk about it. But in 1947, you get a letter from a man named Sergeant Horace Venn, who served in Charlie Company, same battalion. He writes that he heard the story, the one about the matchbox in the ravine, and he wanted you to know that he used the same trick in Germany, in the Ruhr, and it saved his crew when they got turned around in a town full of Panzerfausts. He writes that it's a small thing, but small things matter. He writes that he's grateful. You read the letter twice, fold it carefully, and put it in a drawer. You never answer it, but you keep it. In 1952, you get another letter, this one from Kowalski. He's in Detroit, working in a factory, married with 3 kids. He says he thinks about the war sometimes. He says he thinks about the crew. He says he still remembers the matchbox and how stupid it seemed at first and how it saved their lives. He says he's grateful. He says he hopes you're doing okay. You write back this time. You tell him you're doing fine. You tell him you think about the crew too. You tell him you're glad he made it home. You don't tell him about the dreams. In 1958, Pruitt dies in a car accident in Tennessee. You read about it in a letter from his sister. She says he talked about you sometimes. She says he said you saved his life. You don't know what to say to that. You write her a letter, tell her you're sorry, tell her Pruitt was a good man. You don't tell her that you think about him every time you see a matchbox. In 1963, you attend a reunion of the 1st Armored Division in Washington, D.C. There are maybe 200 men there, old men now, with gray hair and thick waists and stories they tell over and over. You see Kowalski. He's heavier, balder, but his eyes are the same. You shake hands. You talk about the war. You talk about the matchbox. He laughs. I still can't believe that worked, he says. Me neither, you say. And it's true. You can't believe it worked. You can't believe any of it worked. You can't believe you survived. Decades later, in the 1980s, a military historian researching improvised modifications in armored warfare will come across a reference in a unit after action report. Multiple tank commanders in 1st Armored employed crude visual reference points affixed to turret interiors to maintain spatial orientation during close quarters combat in restrictive terrain. The historian will note it as a footnote, a curiosity, one of 1,000 small adaptations that never made it into the field manuals. He will not know your name. He will not know about the ravine, or the 5 Panzers, or the matchbox that trembled on the ceiling while the world tried to kill you. But the footnote will be there, in the archive, a small piece of evidence that someone, somewhere, tried something stupid and it worked. You die in 1993 in a hospital in Ohio, surrounded by children and grandchildren who love you but do not fully understand you. Eileen holds your hand. In the last few minutes, when the morphine makes the room soft and distant, you think about the matchbox. You think about the way it looked, glued to the steel, vibrating with every shot. You think about how something so small, so absurd, gave you just enough control to survive. And you think, not for the first time, that war is not won by the big things, the grand strategies, the speeches and the flags. It's won by the small things, the things you improvise in the dark, the things you glue to the ceiling when no one is looking, the things that make no sense until they're the only thing that makes sense, the things that save your life. In your last moments, you see the matchbox again, clear as day, trembling on the ceiling of the Sherman. You see Kowalski's hands on the traverse controls. You see Pruitt loading the gun. You see Havens at the driver's station, cursing and fighting the terrain. You see Delgado in the bow, muttering prayers in Spanish. You see them all, young and alive and terrified and brave. And you think, I did my best. I kept them alive as long as I could. I used a stupid matchbox and it worked, and that has to be enough. The heart monitor flatlines. Eileen is crying. The grandchildren are crying. But you're not there anymore. You're in Italy in 1944, in a Sherman tank climbing a goat trail toward a plateau where 5 Panzers are waiting. And on the ceiling, glued to the steel, a matchbox trembles and points the way home. If stories of tank crews who improvise their way through the chaos of the Second World War hold your attention, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, and commenting on what other kind of combat improvisation you'd like to hear about here. These are the moments that don't make it into the textbooks, but they're the moments that decided whether men lived or died. They're the moments that matter.